Welcome to our weekly 3-minute therapy podcast. I'm Dr. Michael Edelstein, and I'm here with my trusty co-host, Mick Berry. And I am the author of 3-Minute Therapy, which is a book about REBT, Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, which is the subject from various angles of our weekly podcast. Today, we have a special guest, Nelson Ugbogo. Is that how I pronounce your last name, Nelson Ugbogo?
Ugbogo.
Ugbogo?
Ugbogo.
Ugbogo.
Not bad, it's okay.
with a slight Brooklyn accent. Nelson is in Nigeria, and Nelson is a fan of rational emotive behavior therapy, which is glad to know that we have international appreciation of rational emotive behavior therapy, which was devised by Albert Ellis in the 1950s. And our basic premise is that our emotions come from our thinking about situations, not from situations themselves. And our disturbed emotions, such as anxiety, depression, anger, and also disturbed behaviors, such as procrastination and addictions, come from thinking in terms of demands, musts and shoulds. There are 3 main demands. I must do well and get approval. And if I don't, I'm no good. You must treat me well. And if you don't, you're no good. And my life has to go well. And if it doesn't, my life is no good. That's the basic structure. Mick, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Oh, I think that covers it.
Okay. And Nelson, you contacted us and you had some questions in particular about REBT and about how it applies to situations. And what questions do you have, and what questions can we answer for you?
Okay, I have several, but we can start with how can REBT help a student? Let's say the student is a C or a D student. Let's say the student is a D student. They are average students. Maybe they are between 40 and 50 over 100. That's what they usually get in tests and exams. How can REBT take their game from a C level or a D level to an A+ level? I've thought of that several times, because I believe REBT has immense potential to make people channel their brain power to study. Because I know a lot of young people, they want to do better in terms of study. And I believe REBT can really come in and help them find a solution to that challenge.
Yeah, Mick?
Well, I was going to say, I don't know exactly now, so I think it's a great question. But I know that for myself, when I haven't done well studying, it's generally because I haven't been putting in enough work. I haven't been putting in enough time studying, and also the time I'm studying, I'm not concentrating as well as I can. And I do know that one of the big resistances I have was that this must be easier than it is, and that I can't stand giving up so much time to study. And when I have been able to say, well, I can put more time in here, I accept that it is not easy for me, but I don't need it to be easy, and I can spend more time here and give up doing whatever else it is that I don't have time for if I'm studying more. If I get out of the mindset that this must be easy and I must find it easier, then I have the willingness to put in more time so that I can study more and then get better grades, if that makes any sense. That's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah, and but along those lines, you could start with the problem separation technique. And that says, what is the practical problem and what is the emotional problem? And Mick just outlined both. So the practical problem is, are you putting in enough work? And how could you arrange to put in more work in a practical way? And then your emotional problem could be, I need it to be easy. It shouldn't be so hard. And that tends to lead to procrastination and not putting in enough work. So those would be two main things to look at. Nelson, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. It does make sense because different subjects have different effects on people, and um, some people have this fixed belief about different subjects. Some people will say, I'm not a math person. Maybe you must have heard it before. You must have heard something like that. I'm not a science person. Some people have this um, absolutistic thinking about different disciplines or different subject areas. Some people are not excited about some subjects. So when you say the problem separation technique will be effective, I totally agree. Because I know personally, some subjects make you feel a certain way. Some of us don't have a liking for some subject areas. Oh, I prefer to read. I prefer to study the easy subjects or the easy topics. So if you already have some fixed belief about a particular subject, I think that might hinder your potential of doing very well in that subject area. So I totally agree with both of you on that one. Yes, but it's something I've thought about before. I didn't know before I learned about REBT. I've always pondered the issue of studying. I've always thought that, okay, some people are B students, some people are like, you are fixed. We are all fixed. Just the way some people believe your personality is fixed. No matter how hard you try, you are a C person or you are a C student. No matter how hard you try, this person is a B student. This one is a D student. And you cannot really change it that much.
Yeah, Mick?
Yeah, and I was going to say, right along those lines, Nelson, I do teach a lot now. I'm a drummer, and I have a lot of students. And for the sake of inspiration, I can tell you, I definitely have some students that have more talent for music than others. But I see those kids that I teach that practice more, get better more than the ones that have a lot of musical ability and don't practice at all. And over the course of a couple of years, I've had some students that were unbelievably gifted musically, but they didn't practice very much. And I've had some students that just had maybe even less than an average amount of talent, but they found it within themselves to put in the time. And after a little bit of time, they were playing much, much better than the students that had a natural ability for it. So I think what you're mentioning, some people think of you're either a B student or a C student or A student. I think we might have a natural ability for scholastics, but if you want to become a better student, you can become a better student. And I think what you're mentioning, one of the first steps would be to realize I am not fixed. I am capable of doing well. I am capable of doing badly. And if I haven't done as well as I can right now, REBT would say that doesn't mean you are a C student. That means you're somebody who has gotten C's, but you can bump it up to the B level by being smart about how you study and applying yourself. You mentioned at the beginning, get it up to the A+ level. I think if I was a C student, the first thing I want to do would be to get it up to the B level. And then I get it up to the B level. Now let me get it up to the B+ level. Then they might. So I think a step-by-step approach and not just thinking, I'm a C student or D student. I want to be an A plus student. Let me see how I can become better and do it step by step. It will be much more achievable.
Also, another
That's
thing you meant, I'm sorry, go on, Nelson.
yeah. I just complimented what I said. I said that's powerful. So continue, sir.
Yeah, so another thing you mentioned is someone thinking, for example, I'm not a science person. So there's what they usually mean is I'm not good at science.
Sure, sure, sure. Some people think
So
like that.
and as Nick was saying, it means working hard at it and practicing your science more. When I first learned about REBT, when Albert Ellis was my therapist, I was about 17. I was not very good at REBT. In fact, I was awful at REBT, pardon the expression. But I used Ellis as a role model. I wanted to be a therapist like him. And I practiced and practiced and practiced and got better and better and better at it. And then finally got a PhD and became a psychologist. Uh, so it means working hard, as we've been emphasizing. Yeah, Mick?
Yeah, I wanted to say I have screwed up myself emotionally as much as anybody. I used to be quite depressed. So I think you could say I was terrible at REBT when I didn't even know about it, but I was terrible at being rational. And as I learned REBT, I became better at doing REBT. And I can honestly say I never really get depressed now. If I do, it might last for 5 seconds or something. So the capability to improve, I believe, is there with every human being. I think every human being can become more rational, and every human being can become more successful at their endeavors.
Yeah, and I imagine you've experienced that in your life, Nelson, where when you first started to learn microbiology or your profession now in HR, you were not very good at it, but as you worked at it, you got better and better at it. Is that right?
Yeah, true, true, true. As I invest effort to learn the concepts about the subject area, yes, I became good at what I studied. Yes, that is practically true.
Yeah.
That is practically true.
Yeah.
The reason I asked the question is, because we are humans, we are not materials. There's a psychological component to every problem. There's a way a problem makes you feel. So that's why I see the usefulness of REBT in that study area. Because sometimes I listen to some of this motivational content. It's great, but I noticed they don't go beneath the water. They don't go beneath the surface. They just
Right,
say those
right.
nice things, and they don't address how the person feels about that specific problem. So when I learned about IBT, I was super impressed with the elegant nature. The theory is so neat, the formula is so neat that it can speak to some things that nobody has been able to capture in words. That's why I have high regard for IBT because of the way it can articulate some of the things we cannot put words to that is happening within inside our head. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Mick?
And I was going to say, the thing is, what REBT does make so easy to understand. It says all human beings across the board are capable of being self-defeating, of making our endeavors in our lives harder than they need to be. And
Sure.
all human beings are also capable of being self-helping, of taking our self-defeating tendencies to think in demanding ways and change our thoughts so that our thoughts become much more practical and more helpful in us achieving our goals. REBT teaches people how to change the self-defeating tendencies into self-helping habits. and to be much less self-defeating, much more self-helping. And it also says that trying to be completely non-self-defeating, you can aim for it, but as a human being, you will always have a tendency to be self-defeating. You just want to diminish it as much as you can. But accepting ourselves as fallible human beings, we know human beings are fallible. All you have to do is take a look around. Within 5 minutes, you're going to see some human being being fallible. And REBT accepts, it encourages people to accept our fallible nature and to improve upon that.
Hey, Nelson, we
I totally
only have,
agree.
I'm sorry, Nelson?
You said?
We only have a few more minutes.
Okay, we
And-
have a few more minutes.
Yeah, we only have a few more minutes on the podcast.
Okay.
So I just wanted to conclude by mentioning that in your email, you had suggested 2 additional subjects, REBT for successful parenting and REBT for a healthy, lasting marriage. So I think those are great topics. We don't have the time to address those topics that it would merit. So perhaps we can have you back in future podcasts and discuss those further.
I am available.
Very good,
Honest.
very good, very good.
I'm very excited about I'm excited about the show, and by God's grace, why not? I would like to be part of it next time.
Yeah.
Good, good. And I'm excited about you bringing REBT to Nigeria. That's great.
Yeah.
Whatever you guys want me to do, I'm ready to do it.
Okay. Okay.
Because in my short or long existence in this world, I've not seen something so practical and useful like that very concept. So I really have a high regard for it. Honestly, I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah,
There was this addiction I had for 20 years. I've done everything. But the moment I understood REBT, I was able to get free. Something I've struggled for 20 years. So you guys want me to be an evangelist in Africa to push this system of ideas, as one of these doctors will call it. I am willing to do it because it is amazing. It is amazing. Trust me, it
Great.
is amazing.
Yeah, I trust you on that, definitely. Yes.
So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you for coming on. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, so just to wrap it up, I wanted to mention that I'm Dr. Michael Edelstein, a clinical psychologist. My co-host always is Mick Berry, an REBT expert. And I'd like to thank Chris Rossini, our technical engineer. Comment below if you have thoughts about this podcast. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Suggest subjects for future podcasts, and volunteer as Nelson has, and also suggested subjects. And subscribe to the 3-Minute Therapy podcast. To do what, Mick?
I'll say I want to invite Nelson back as soon as he wants to come to stay on the rational side of life.
Of life,
Very
yeah, I know that line.
Yeah, right.